Om Aganati Marandasya Gana Gana Saraka Chaksurun Miritam Yana Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Sayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swaparantikam Vande Hom Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagadaram Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sayitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sya Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pastaya Bhutade Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Sarasati Deva Gauravani Pachalini Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paskada Desadani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devam Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayodirayat Ashtaprayashu Bhadrasu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavatiya Tamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nikama Kapatura Karitam Phalam Shukamakaramitta Dravisamitam Pivata Bhagatam Rakshamalayam Mahora Hora Shikamuvi Bapakha. Thanks for joining us, Terry and Taruna, Jimmy, Hare Krishna, Manasaganga, Anjali, Hare Krishna, happy TT, happy Transcendental Tuesday. Prayers go out to Gopal Krishna Maharaj, who has COVID, although they say he's not really in danger, in fact, out of danger. Still going to spend another couple of days in the hospital, but they expect his full recovery in due course of time. But pray for him because it's a tricky infection. It can turn on you. Morning, Sundari Priya. Morning, Prashant. Prayers for Gopal Krishna Maharaj for a quick recovery from COVID. Bill, good morning, Bill. Hare Krishna. We're doing another day on this verse, part 2, second verse, third chapter, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's so fascinating. I'll read the verse once again. Yashambashi sayanasya yoga nidram vitanvata nabi radham bhajad ashit brahma vishva shijampati. A part of the Purusha lies down within the water of the universe. From the navel lake of his body sprouts a lotus stem, and from the lotus flower atop the stem, Brahma, the master of all engineers in the universe, becomes manifest. In this sloka, Prabhupada writes in the purport, good morning, Thomas, please accept my obeisances. The subject matter of Mahavishnu is summarized. The Mahavishnu, and thanks for your emojis to start things off. That's always a very inspiring jolt. The Mahavishnu lies down in some part of the spiritual sky by his own Rakeshti Hari Hari Bo. Good morning. By his own free will, he lies down on the ocean of Karna, from where he glances over his material nature, and the Mahatattva is once created. Thus, electrified by the power of the Lord, the material nature at once creates innumerable universes, just as in due course a tree decorates itself with innumerable grown fruits. That example of the tree also reminds us of Christmas, isn't it? They have the big tree in Times Square in New York City, and everyone looks forward to the moment when it's electrified. In other words, the tree's there, it's all decorated with lights and everything, but it's dark. So in the darkness, you can't see any of the magnificence of the tree, the lights, the tinsel, the decorations and everything. It requires someone to turn the switch. And then just by that simple act of turning the switch, and they might be miles away, they might be 100 feet away, they could be anywhere. But they're turning the switch, and then by pushing the power on, immediately the whole tree illuminates, and everyone goes, ooh and ah, gasp and admiration. Krishna is that person who puts the power switch on. Otherwise, the universe is dull, it's inert, it's inactive, it's passive, it's inanimate. Everything is there. All the elements are there. Lord Brahma is the engineer. What engineers do is they don't work with spirit. They work with matter. They work with circuits and switches and different types of electrical paraphernalia, mechanical instruments. But they themselves haven't got the power to bring it to life, to animate it. That's only through Krishna. Through Krishna, you get Vishnu, Karnadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Sharavakshay Vishnu. You get all the Leela avatars, the Purusha avatars. But none of it comes to life unless and until Krishna electrifies it by pitching the switch. So Krishna gives the sanction. Krishna lights it up. Krishna gives it energy. Krishna gives it power. So everything rests on Krishna. Everything depends on Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. Everything is caused by Krishna. But Krishna himself is not, he doesn't have anything to do with it, other than that little hitting the power switch or glancing over material nature. He basically has nothing to do with material nature. Continuing here in the purport, the seed of the tree is sown by the cultivator, and the tree or creeper in due course becomes manifest with so many fruits. That's another example. You know, the seed is already pre-programmed. It's already pre-programmed. The whole blueprint of a banyan tree is contained within a microscopic seed. And that's what Krishna's done through Lord Brahma. But again, you have to put the seed in the ground, you have to water it, you have to nourish it, you have to care for it, and eventually that seed grows into a huge banyan tree. But the person who created the seed doesn't really have anything personally to do with the planting of it, with the watering of the nourishment. Remotely, he has everything to do with it, because he put everything in place, and he ignited everything. He started the process, but he personally hasn't got to do all of the work of cultivating the seed. Having created the seed, he leaves it to the automatic activities of material nature. So it says, Natasya karanam chavidite natat samyasya bhadakastadishyate. The definition of God, or Krishna, Supreme Lord, is that person than whom no one is greater or equal. And his influence is so complete that all of the energies, all of the mechanics which are created by Lord Brahma by the empowerment of Krishna, they're all perfect and complete. They're all ready. They're all ready to get fired up. They're ready to work seamlessly for countless years within this material creation. And when Krishna pushes the power button, it all springs to life and goes into action. And his energies are themselves so perfect and so completely and meticulously pre-designed that Krishna only has to touch the power switch and everything starts up and runs itself for countless years. Nothing can take place without a cause. The Karna ocean is therefore called the causal ocean. Karna means causal. The creative energy is working under his direction, or Krishna's direction, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. He is the control switch of the material energy, and to control the material energy in the innumerable universes, he is the root cause of innumerable incarnations in the universes. And Prabhupada throws out a really interesting little tidbit of a fact here today. There are more than 500,000 incarnations of Manu in only one universe, besides other incarnations in other universes. And Manu is the progenitor of mankind. That verse referred to in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 10th verse, Maya dakshena prakrite suyate sa characharam hetu nanena kantya jagadvi parivartate. Krishna says to Arjuna, this material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, Maya dakshena prakriti. Prakriti means controlled. It means subordinate. Purusha is controller. So Krishna is the Purusha, and this material nature is Prakriti. And as such, it is Maya Dakshena. It is under Krishna's direction, producing Suyate Sa Characharan, the moving and the non-moving beings. And then it is also manifested and created again and again. Jakadvi Parivartate, Bhutva Bhukra Pralayate. This universe is coming and going through periods of manifestation and non-manifestation. The cause of all of that, Hetu Nanina, is Krishna. And while Krishna causes, sets all of that into motion, he himself is Sarva Karana Karana. He himself has no cause. Because he glances over material nature, it can be said that the Lord acts, but he has nothing to do with the subsequent workings and manifestations of the material world directly. It's like you push the play button on a tape recorder and then you can walk away and it'll just play for hours. Or we've all experienced, we start a YouTube video and then it queues up. Once that video's done, another video's done, another video. You come back 5 hours later, it's still playing videos, one after another, because that's what it's been programmed to do. So there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, because he glances over material nature, he animates it, he brings it to life, but he himself has nothing to do with the subsequent workings of material nature. Prabhupada gives the example here. When you smell the fragrance of a flower, the smelling and the flower, they're detached from each other. You smell the fragrance of the flower, but at the same time, you have nothing to do with the flower itself. So there's a similar connection, Prabhupada explains, between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has nothing personally to do with this material world, but he does ordain it, he sanctions it, he starts it off, and in fact, without his superintendence, nothing would have begun from the very beginning. No, nothing would have gotten out of the starting gate, so to speak. Maya tadamidam sarvam jagat, Maya tadamidam jagat sarvani bhutani majtani sarva nachaham teshu vashadam. Krishna says, I am all pervasive through the expansions of my energy, through my Purusha avatars, through every atom in the hearts of every living being. The Lord is ubiquitous, he's Vasudeva, he's all prevalent, and yet at the same time he has nothing to do because he has his own individual personality totally apart from this manifested creation. Prabhupada says here, there are basically three general causes why we ourselves as living beings find ourselves apart from Krishna in the spiritual world and revolving in the cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age in this material world. There are basically three primeval causes that bestirred us to leave the spiritual world and come to this world of birth and death. They can be classified as material enjoyment, which is the most often motivation for most fallen souls within this material world, mystic powers, and then the desire for liberation. So material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberations. Those are, the last two are generally desired by progressive persons, and material enjoyment is desired by people who are basically little better than animals. Prabhupada says the range of material enjoyments are innumerable, and the materialists who live for those sorts of stimulations are eager to increase them more and more because they are enamored, hypnotized under the spell of the material energy. That's the most categories of people. There are more material enjoyments available in this world than they can ever reach the end of, even throughout many, many incarnations. And none of those material enjoyments is going to resonate with the inner self, is going to resonate with the spirit soul. Heard an example given one time. Say you drive up to the gas station, and in the old days, you had an attendant who would wash your windows and check your oil and fill up the gas for you. So imagine telling the attendant, fill up my gas tank, and after he's filled up your gas tank with gas, then you open your mouth and say, give me 5 gallons. What's food for the car would be poison for you. So similarly, what we need to keep body and soul together is one thing, but none of those nutrients are going to nourish our spiritual selves. We need a different type of nourishment for that. It is said man does not live by bread alone, but his nourishment are the words that come from the mouth of the Lord, hearing and relishing. Madkada madga, bodhyantas katayantas chamam nijam tasanti cha ramanti cha. The soul, the inner self, hankers after the tusanti cha ramanti, the bliss and the deep satisfaction that comes from being connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when someone as they inevitably must, becomes frustrated from trying to ruminate over and masticate all the various permutations and combinations of material enjoyment, then they conceive of a desire to attain mystic powers, to become little sort of gods themselves, or images or reflections of God. And then being frustrated with material enjoyment and mystic powers, then one wants liberation. But amongst all the various categories of living beings, those who serve the Lord out of love and devotion, having had the good fortune to meet the Lord externally in the form of their Chaita Guru, their spiritual master, those and those only are free from causality. Their actions are not caused by material enjoyment, by a desire for mystic powers, or by liberation. Krishna Bhakti Nishkama Ataiva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kamala Shakali Ashanta. The bhuktis, the material enjoyers, the muktis, the ones who are desirous of liberation, the siddhi kamis, the ones who want mystic powers, shakali ashanta, they're never peaceful. They're trapped within the web of cause and effect in this material world. And Krishna says, nadati kasitid papam nadchayavasukad agyane nadvitamda tenam yantitam. Agyana, acting in ignorance of their true eternal spiritual self, people try to savor the various delights and opulences which are available in this material world. And Krishna steps back. Krishna says, you want those things, you go for them, you take the responsibility for them, but I will step back. I will not leave you, Upadrashtanamad. I will stay with you as your companion in the heart, as a witnesser, overseer, proprietor, and permitter. But personally, you're going to have to bear the reactions to all of your efforts in these different categories of activities. When you act with causality, for every cause, there's an effect. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Karma is cause and effect. You sow the seed, you face the deed. Whatever you do comes back to you. The law of action and reaction ensures that the balance is perfect. Detecting whatever you do, good and bad, it will resurrect. Death is not the end, it's just a bend. Whatever you've done will circle back again. The body may die, but your karma is standing by. You'll be reborn to live and die, continue to suffer and cry. As aroma follows the flowers, heat pursues the fire. Your karma will track you as soon as you leave the funeral pyre. Karma decides how you'll be reborn, comely or scorned, higher, humiliated, straight or deformed, healthy or ill, long or short-lived, animal or human, sheltered or adrift. Karma is what makes the world go round. Its cause and effect right down there on the ground. For those going over and around, up and down, bound by their deeds, drowned by their needs. Is there any purpose to our life on earth? Are we just supposed to die and continually take birth? Is there any escape from the pain of coming back again and again and again and again? Yes, you are not this flesh and you are not this mind. Your eternal spirit, designed in the spirit, in the image of the Almighty Divine, assigned to a service sublime. Attracted by unselfish action, serving the Lord with dispassion, acting only for his satisfaction, devoted souls achieve extraction from karmic reaction. If you want to burn up your karma, practice the Dharma, pleasing the Lord, fashioned by his hand, acting according to his plan, and never come back to this mortal world again. Thank you very much for all your cheers and your emojis and everything. Karma from A to Z. How it is that we act with the cause of our actions is material enjoyment, mystic powers, or liberation. But unfortunately, as soon as you act with cause, then you step into the material entanglement, the material quagmire, the material muck of cause and effect. As it was previously explained, beyond the causal ocean and outside of Mahavishnu, there's no causality. That's the area of devotion. That's the area where all of the residents and all of the inhabitants orbit around the Supreme Personality of God. It is the most all-attractive living being. Their actions are motivated not by personal gain or acquisition, name and fame, but only by love of the Lord. The activities of the different species of living beings are begun from the moment of creation. It is not that all is evolved. Prabhupada's rejecting the idea of the gradual evolution of the species. He says the different species are created immediately along with the universe. As soon as Krishna hits the power switch, as soon as Krishna glances over material nature, everything comes up immediately. It's already there, in place, previously, due to the engineering power of Lord Brahma. And there are 8,400,000 different species of life corresponding to different mentalities, different combinations of the modes of material nature. Everything is there. Krishna hits the power switch. There's no question of gradual evolution. All those species spring up simultaneously at the time of creation. And it's explained that the living beings who were engaged in pursuing mystic powers, liberation, or material enjoyment from a previous creation, and whose activities were interrupted at the time of the previous annihilation, they were retracted into the body of Vishnu, went to sleep for a long time, and then when Krishna hit the power switch for a new creation, they woke up, so to speak, and took up where they left off from the previous creation with an exactly suitable body which resonates with their desires. There's no question of things evolving gradually. Everything, just like that Christmas tree with all the lights in Times Square. One moment it's dark, and there's no question of one light coming on, two lights coming on, three lights. The crowd does not have to wait for one after another Christmas tree light to come on, and then finally the little star on top illuminates. It's not a 5-minute process, not a half an hour process. It's not an hour process. It's in less than a second. That tree, as soon as the switch is hit, as soon as the plug goes in, every single light simultaneously illuminates, and the little star on top as well. And that's the way the Lord does it, not trial and error, not step by step, not a little trickle, but an explosion of creation. Immediate, simultaneous. Every living being wakes up. Just like you wake up in the morning, and whatever it was that you were thinking of when you had gone to sleep the night before, generally that's going to dominate your waking thoughts. You get up, you jump out of bed, you get into the shower, and you're off and running. So the consciousness is not destroyed. The body may have been destroyed from the previous creation, but the consciousness, the desires, the appetites, the goals, and the ambitions, they were preserved. And so as soon as there's a creation, then the various materialists, the various self-servers from the previous creation, they immediately pick up where they left off and continue in terms of material acquisition, mystic powers, or liberation. Now, the impersonalists are counted basically in a sort of a in-betwixt and between area. The impersonalists, those who achieve or desire for liberation, that's good. You know, the whole point is to get off the cycle of birth and death, stop our continued incarnations in this material world. But the path of impersonalism is an incomplete path. It is not sufficient enough in order to permanently ensure that one gets liberation from this material world. It is said, Yaner aravindakshavi muktamania trayashtad vivishuddha buddhi aroha kuchena padam padanti adho yajmada nakra pachad anagraha. That impersonalists, by virtue of their detachment from material sense enjoyment and their identification with the Brahma Jyoti, which is the effulgence emanating from the divine form of the Lord, achieve a certain elevation, you might say. They identify with the glowing effulgence, the force field which emanates from the Lord, and as a result of their meditation on the impersonal aspect of the Lord, they succeed in becoming one with the Lord. They succeed in merging temporarily and basically artificially their light into the overall light, which is the Brahma Jyoti. Another favorite example that the impersonalists give, they see themselves as a drop of water that somehow they got separated from the ocean, and the whole purpose is to merge back into the ocean and become one, at which time they lose their individuality. and there's no question of loving of God because everything becomes one. So the drop of water merges back into the ocean, but the only problem is that powerful sun beats on the ocean. It beats on the ocean, and the system is that due to the increased temperature of the ocean by the action of the sun, the drop of water is then again extracted from the ocean. It's taken out of the ocean again as evaporation. It becomes a cloud. The cloud wafts over the earth, and due to the cooler temperatures, rain falls on the mountaintops. The rain flows through rivers and back to the ocean. Again. So the so-called liberation of the impersonalists, which involves merging and becoming one, is only temporary. They cannot maintain their position hovering as a spark in the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's also another example which is given about certain fishes. They're born in the rivers and rivulets. They spawn. They're produced from eggs that their fathers and mothers have laid. They reach maturity, and then they go and migrate into the great ocean, and they spend some time in the ocean. You might say they become one with the ocean, but they're drawn back into those rivers where they were originally spawned. They want to then again, as they were spawned by their parents, they're moved by sex desire, they're moved by the desire for family life, so they cannot remain in the ocean. Rather, they fight their way back upstream, because all rivers flow into the ocean. So when the fish want to go back to the place where they were born, and then themselves spawn other offspring, they have to fight their way. Very, very difficult, fighting their way upstream. There are many pitfalls, there are many dangers. I don't know if you've ever seen those pictures of 20 or 30 bears just waiting in the whitewater rapids of the river. And so when the fish jump up to go further upstream, the bears just catch them and have a meal. There'll be 20 bears there just feasting like anything, one fish after another. Krishna describes the whole effort of the impersonalists. It goes against our nature to be individuals, to be sentient, to feel things emotionally, and above and beyond everything else, to love. We are created as lovers by the Supreme Lover, Krishna. Klesho dikadastesham avyakta shakta chedasham avyakta higatirtam dehavadviravapyate. The path of impersonalism is very, very difficult. It's fraught with pitfalls and dangers, and it's not permanent. You cannot stay in the ocean, but you're driven to go back again by sex life and material enjoyment. So after some time hovering in amongst the Brahmajyoti, the soul eventually Arahakachena Param Patantiad Ho falls back down into this material world. And the interesting phraseology of this verse, Yane Aravindaksha. Vindaksha means the lotus-eyed Lord, refers to the lotus flower. But in the impersonalistic conception, the lotus flower, the lotus-eyed Lord, is unseen. He's hidden, just like in the darkness. Again, that Christmas tree. In the darkness, before it's illuminated, it has no attractive power. There's nothing that pleases us. There's no beautiful visual spectacle. Everything is there, but it hasn't been touched by the hand of the person who hit the power switch. So this Aravindaksha, the impersonalists, they fail to see the lotus-like face, the lotus-like feet of the Lord. And you cannot arrive at a destination without previously envisioning that destination, isn't it? You've rented a little Airbnb in the mountains for the weekend. You've seen the pictures online. So you get in your car, you put in your gear, you pack your suitcase and everything, and you're simply driving with that picture in your mind of the accommodations, the forest trails, the walks, the trees, the lakes, and all that beauty. You cannot arrive there if you have no conception and no direction in which to go. So the problem with impersonalism is there's no goal, there's no shelter. You just get up there, but not having taken shelter anywhere, you simply come back down. The space explorations are similar. Prabhupada said they spend billions and billions of dollars to send a rocket up into space, but not landing on any planet. It simply orbits there and eventually comes back down to the Earth's atmosphere. It's sucked back to the Earth's atmosphere. So the whole key of liberation, factual liberation, other than pseudo-liberation, is to see in the light of transcendental knowledge the lotus feet of the Lord, to target those lotus feet as the goal of all of your efforts, to focus on them, to serve and to please the lotus feet, awakening your inner nature as a lover of the Lord, and then in the end, being focused on the Lord, yanti deva brada, piti yanti vidya, bhutani yanti vidya, yanti madhyagino pimam. Those who worship the demigods will go to the higher planets. Those who worship the ancestors will go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will go to the ghosts and spirits. Yanti madhyagino pimam. But those who worship me will come to me. And those who go to Krishna never again come back to this material world. Prabhupada explains what I just said here. At night, no one can see a lotus, for lotuses blossom only during the daytime. Therefore, the word Aravindaksha is significant. One who is not captivated by the lotus eyes or transcendental form of the Supreme Lord is in darkness, as is the impersonalist. Exactly like one who cannot see the lotus. One who has not come to the point of seeing the lotus eyes and the transcendental form of the Lord is a failure. And this is what Rishabh also tells us. Having achieved the rare and valuable form of the human life, he who has a human form and who makes no inquiry, still remains entangled within the web of karma, within the web of causality and effect, and then again has to take another sarira bandha, remains bound up in the embodied condition of life. And therefore, the conclusion is you have to take to devotional service. Only devotional service of the Lord, after the ways of the great authorities, under the guidance of the spiritual master, is causeless. Only devotional service does not bring further complications, further entanglements, further birth, death, disease, and old age in this material world. Krishna confirms this in the 9th chapter, 3rd verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Ashradanara purusha dharmasyasya parantava aprapya mam nivartate mritu sham sharavartani. You're feeling inconvenienced as an eternal spirit soul. You're feeling pained. You're feeling uncomfortable in this mritu samsara, this wheel of birth and death. Well, then take to devotional service. That is the only medicine, is the only antidote, is the only solution. The translation, those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service, Krishna says to Arjuna, cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. So therefore, devotional service to the Lord is unalloyed, unlike the desire for material sense gratification, unlike the desire for yogic powers, unlike the desire for liberation. Devotional service, bhakti yoga, without desire for benefit, without desire, causality in any of those three categories, is the only area of activity which is pure and unalloyed. And the only activity which can please the omniscient, omnipotent, supreme personality of Godhead, the only activity by which he can be fully satisfied is the activity of unalloyed devotional service under his lotus feet. We're not unalloyed devotees. We're neophytes on the path. But if we attach ourselves to and assist the unalloyed devotees in their service of the Lord, we can also catch the favor of the Lord himself. And when you walk in the light, when you tread the path that the previous acharyas have trod, when you take the knowledge, the nectar which drips from their mouth and lights up our eyes with transcendence, then, unlike the impersonalists, in the light of spiritual knowledge, you can see the Lord ultimately face to face. Premanjana charita bhakti valochanena, simply anointing the eyes with the salve of love illuminates that which is obscure to the other categories of materialists. And it also explains that when you see the Lord with eyes anointed with the salve of love, sadari dayashu viloki anti yam shayamashanu machinta gunusharupam govinamari purusham tamahang vijami. When you see the Lord once, you never then again not see him. You see him always and everywhere. You see him in every corner and everywhere you turn. You see him at all times, all places, and all circumstances. There were a couple of young men, I think they were a Self-Realization Society. They came to see Prabhupada, and I was in the room. So they said, right off the bat, they just said, "Can you see God?" And Prabhupada said, how will you know? How do you know if I tell you I see him? How will you know it's true? You don't even know what God is. So how will you? He says, unless you accept whatever I say, blindly. They said, we will accept whatever answer you give. And Prabhupada said, then I've seen God. Then I've seen God. Now that consciousness of Krishna consciousness, that fully awakened, fully illumined, tesham evanu kampartam, aham agyanam devshamaha. Krishna's poised. He's in the heart. He's been accompanying you, just waiting for your breakthrough, waiting for your moment of illumination. And when you take one step towards the Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that's the moment Krishna's been waiting for. And from within the heart, he starts to flood your heart with transcendental light, illumination, and knowledge. And when your consciousness is illuminated by Krishna consciousness, you can never again be eclipsed by darkness. Take the example of Narada Muni. He became Krishna conscious, and in the next creation, his consciousness already fully awakened, fully bloomed, elevated him to the position of Narada Muni, from the illegitimate son of a maidservant who died and orphaned him. In the next creation, Matir Mai Mayariyam Navi Praja Shargana Shmitas Chamada Nugraham. He carried that remembrance of Krishna, even by the mercy of Krishna, because it's not within our capabilities to hold on to our memories from millions and millions of years ago from a previous creation. So the fact that Narada Muni retained his Krishna consciousness from one creation to another, and the fact that he transformed himself from the illegitimate orphan son of a maidservant to the sage amongst the demigods, Antir Vihish Chalokam Stream, who can travel unrestrictedly within the material and spiritual worlds, is the nature of Krishna consciousness. There's never any loss or diminution, and even a little bit of advancement in Krishna consciousness saves one from the greatest danger. Winding up here, Prabhupada says, systematic training of the mind and intelligence is therefore needed so that at the time of death, one may consciously desire and aim for and target a suitable body for serving the Lord. A civilization that does not consider the progressive advancement of the immortal soul merely fosters a bestial life of ignorance. Prabhupada said we should not foolishly accept the atheistic theory of creation. The description of the atheists is given in the Bhagavad Gita. They do not believe in a creator. But at the same time, the atheists cannot give a good theory to explain the creation. Material nature has no power to create without the power of the Purusha, just as a woman cannot produce a child without the connection of a man. The man impregnates and the woman delivers the child. Prabhupada says the fleshy bags that hang from the neck of a goat, they may look like nipples. They may look like nipples, but if you try and grab them and get milk from them, it'll be a wasted effort. So similarly, if you expect that from matter alone, that from Mother Nature alone, you're going to get life without the impregnation, without the impregnating glance of the Supreme Purusha. You're in illusion. You're living in a grand illusion. Prabhupada says here, because the Lord wished to lie down in meditation, the material energy being ignited and electrified by him subsequently created innumerable universes at once, and in each of those universes the Lord laid down his Garbha Dakshai Vishnu, and thus all the planets and the different paraphernalia were created at once by the will of the Lord. The Lord has unlimited potencies, and thus he can act as he likes by perfect planning, although personally he has nothing to do. No one is greater or equal to him. That is the verdict of the Vedas. Om Tat Sat, QED, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for your support. I could see all your little emojis going throughout the whole thing. That's why I got so excited, because I could see that you guys were behind me getting illuminations and insights, as was I. So it's so wonderful that we can gather together and partner in churning the ocean of nectar and awakening our dormant love of Krishna. Couldn't do it without you. Appreciate you so much. Bye, Bobby there, Prashant, Shamadasi, Anjali, of course, Yuddha Pratama, Shikshashtakam Das, some new people, Vasu, Haribo Vasu. Haven't seen you for a while. Ayush Iyer. I look forward to your comments. By all means, comment, share. If you feel there's anything worth sharing here, share it with the people on your timeline, share it with your friends. And until we meet tomorrow morning for Wisdom Wednesday, don't forget to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.